basically innovators within a large organization. Let's say you work in a large corporate and you really want to bring the company forward, you have ideas, then we basically provided the tools, the resource, the space and support to give these people wings so they actually get the chance to execute their ideas and bring the company forward. And it's actually another new thing. For example, Steve Jobs, like 40 years ago, we called the Macintosh team an intrapreneurship team that he put into a garage, gave them the space and let them build something new.
Hi, my name is Dimitri Benici, and I'm a content creator, agency owner, and AI enthusiast. You're listening to the AI Agents Podcast, brought to you by Jotform, and featuring our very own CEO and founder, Ideation Tank. This is the show where artificial intelligence meets innovation, productivity, and the tools shaping the future of work. Enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the AI Agents Podcast. In today's episode, we have the CEO and founder of Ready AI, Dave Hengartner. How you doing, Dave?
Very good. Thanks very much, Dimitri. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate having you on the show. I think it's another unique, interesting product, and we're just really excited to get chatting about Ready AI. What is the kind of background of you? You know, like there's so many different stories of how people get into business and get into AI. So just tell us a little bit about how you get to this point.
Actually, an entrepreneur who joined a large corporation 10 years ago and in the innovation team. And my job was open innovation, to collaborate with startups to find ways to make Swisscom, like the largest Swiss telco, more innovative. And then basically I discovered an innovation methodology for intrapreneurship I liked a lot and brought that into the company. And then like over the years, rolling out, scaling the program and eventually turning into a corporate startup. So what we have built kind of attracted a lot of interest in the market, and we start to sell it first as employees of the corporate, and eventually 4.5 years ago we got the opportunity to spin out, to find venture capital in the US, actually lead investor from San Francisco and some venture capital and angels from Switzerland. And now we're 4.5 years into that, into Ready.com and Ready AI, and with 3 other co-founders. And super exciting as well, coming from innovation, trying to solve the big challenges, the big problem of innovation with our software tooling.
Very cool. You know, I never even heard of that telecom company. So that was the largest, or is it still the largest? Okay, Swisscom, is it still like the largest?
AT&T in the US.
Okay, interesting, nice. And then it seems like about 4 years ago you got started with this
Yes.
With Ready.
Actually had the chance we could start in a safe corporate environment and then take out some revenue, some customers, some IP and employees over and start the Ready journey.
Oh yeah, very cool. And I guess just for that experience, you started as, I guess, an entrepreneur, and then you said you got back, then you were at a company and now you're back as an entrepreneur again. What's kind of the experience been like building this company during the, everyone I feel like to some respect who has AI right now or like has a new AI product or like framing, they're like, oh, we were always an AI company. I'm like, well, in this, not maybe in the same way as it is now, but what is the journey for Ready been like in general? Like where did you guys, what did you first start doing?
We started in the intrapreneurship area where actually we have developed the IP and methodologies at Swisscom. But when we spun out 4.5 years ago, we already started to rebuild our architecture to be very flexible. We really had this big goal of solving the challenges of innovation. And that's not just intrapreneurship, right? If you want to innovate as a large organization, you need to do it with multiple tactics, multiple programs. And we basically built the architecture, the back end, to deliver solutions, deliver software for different ways of innovation. Like for example, you want to do idea management, more kind of improve the company. Maybe you want to do in typical portfolio management for the big innovation projects. You want to do trend management. You want to innovate with startups. And we can serve kind of with solutions for all of these programs. So nowadays, we're really broad. If you look at our website, we're basically a SaaS provider for all these type of innovation, but it very much started in the intrapreneurship area.
Intrapreneurship is an interesting concept. I don't think a lot of people, could you kind of like walk us through what that means? Because I don't feel like a lot of employees don't think about what that means, to be frank, right? Like, I mean, the ones that are entrepreneurs would think like that, but yeah, just what does that mean to everyone who was probably curious hearing that word?
it's basically innovators within a large organization. Let's say you work in a large corporate and you really want to bring the company forward, you have ideas, then we basically provided the tools, the resource, the space and support to give these people wings so they actually get the chance to execute their ideas and bring the company forward. And it's actually another new thing. For example, Steve Jobs, like 40 years ago, we called the Macintosh team an intrapreneurship team that he
absolutely
put
yes
in the garage, gave them the space and let them build something new.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you know what's interesting about that is I believe maybe it's not common knowledge, but it's like common. It's been statistically proven over and over again. Most of the time when people are dissatisfied at work, it's actually not due to their like lack of pay or being overworked. It's usually because they don't have like self-fulfillment sort of, right? And entrepreneurship seems to, I guess, solve that, right? For lack of a better phrase, right?
It's a big culture program as well, right? That it kind of culture transformation, kind of the breaking up silos and educating people in lean startup and stuff like that as well.
And what kind of like size companies were you working with, early on at Ready?
Always with the large multinationals, like at least 1,000 employees. I think sweet spot 10,000 plus.
What kind of made you want to go that direction?
I think at the end, as a software provider, actually the reason why you need a software platform is if you need to have enough employees, you need to have enough ideas, right? Otherwise, you don't need a software platform to manage that.
What it's interesting. I feel like with the advent of AI, that's had to have been an interesting like shift. So when did, obviously ready.com is like the main domain you guys had. When did you start this initiative for Ready AI?
I think when AI emerged, like with the ChatGPT release, obviously we start to play around a lot because it's interesting that innovation as 5 years ago is still a very, very important discipline for each company. Like just a recent Boston Consulting report showed that 83% of companies rank innovation as a top priority. And that's a massive contrast to 3%, which is actually what companies deliver on their goals. So from 83% saying it's important, just 3% delivering, it's a massive innovation gap. And it's just because the output of innovation is not big enough. And we also identified since years the key problems around that. For example, there are not enough relevant ideas being pushed forward, people don't have enough time to innovate, or you don't have proper reporting, or you don't have the data-driven validation. And there are many, many problems. And when the AI emerged, we quickly realized that new technology can tackle many of the problems we've been observing for the last 10 years being in the field. And we start to experiment very quickly with ways to generate more relevant ideas, ways to execute faster. If you can execute 10 times faster, then you solve the problem of not having enough ideas. And all these experiments that started like 2-3 years ago, internally testing with customers, we basically brought them to the market with the Ready AI value prop. Which for us at the end, AI is a technology like blockchain, like any other technology, and we really want to solve problems. It shouldn't be just a flashy word of AI. We really want to solve problem, build it into our product that we believe it does make a difference and improve the output and throughput of innovation.
What do you feel like is some of the biggest issues that companies are facing that you're helping them solve for, like on a consistent basis?
I think it really starts at the beginning. I think if you look at innovation, we look at it as a funnel, like the jobs to be done, you source ideas, you evaluate ideas, you execute, and you report, right? And at the end, all of that should lead to top line and or bottom line impact. And it really starts with sourcing. If you don't source enough ideas, you will never get enough output. If you think of innovation like a portfolio, think of the startup world, for example, everybody can start a startup, but only very few make it to success. And often corporates have very limited the amount of ideas they're testing and sending to the race. But you have to send many, many horses to the race in order to have one unicorn coming out of that. And I think that's one major problem we've been observing over and over again. So how can we increase the amount of ideas 10x? How can we make sure these ideas are actually relevant for the company to increase the chance to have a big output at the end, right?
Yeah, so you're helping them like earlier and more systemically. Interesting.
That's one thing where AI plays a massive role, right? Because, for example, in the past, you were mainly relying on the creativity of employees. Like when we did intrapreneurship, we asked employees, do you have ideas? Some had ideas, some were good, some less good.
Some were not good.
So one is, how can we supercharge employees in ideation? So we have whole agentic workflows that are guiding employees from a business challenge for the corporation all the way to a sound idea which tackles the problem we're solving, and which in the past either we didn't have this structured approach or it was much slower. And with the use of AI, we are much, much faster and supercharging employees in the ideation journey. And that's just one part of ideation, like the human powered ideation. And we also, through AI, through our agentic workflows, we added other layers. For example, tapping into market signals, looking at what competitors are doing, which trends are in the market, which signals are out there, and our system is picking them up and sending them through a structured validation to really have relevant ideas based on market signals. And you could even do it one step further and tap into internal data. So you look into ERPs, CRMs, like the big system, like a Salesforce, like SAP, and see if there are any ideas, any opportunities or problems around based on real-time data. And again, you can generate relevant ideas based on that data. So at the end, what we do on just talking about the sourcing part, we supercharge the employees to be faster and more tailored with their ideation. We tap into external signals from market and we tap into internal data. And with that, we can solve the big challenge of having not enough relevant ideas, right?
Interesting. Yeah. So I was going to ask, like, do you find that this is being, because you have your own workflows, like you said right now. Have you found that in the last few years, this is increasingly become more effective and more efficient and more innovative because of the improvement in, language or LLM's ability to reason, think, and kind of expand on ideas? Or how do you feel like it's changed for your company in the last couple of years as like the tech has improved?
I think the different ways we could improve it. One is like using AI for semantic search. Like let's say somebody submits an idea or the system generates an idea. You could use certain prompts, certain flows to analyze what's the similarity, contextual similarity to existing ideas to make sure you don't do the same thing over and over again. That's one example you could use. And there are different kind of levers in the system that help us to make our customers more effective in innovating. And another example, now recently we launched that our customers can bring their own LLMs. Like let's say you develop your own GPT trained with your company data. Now with just one click, you integrate this kind of API key to our platform, and out of a sudden the ready AI is much more smart because you really tap into the relevant models trained by our customers. There are different ways of how we deliver the AI to the employees to increase adoption. I go into that a bit later, but I think there are different ways with the evolvement of the models, like these new MCP protocols, or like they really help us to get even better, even more effective as a platform.
Just out of curiosity, like what would you say has been the biggest concern or like hurdle that companies need to get past mentally on the adoption side for whether it be AI at their own company in general, or, I'm not to say that your product wouldn't produce great ideas. I'm sure it does. Like, has there been like kind of like this hurdle of convincing companies that would be the case though? Right. Like it's kind of I'm curious, like with larger companies, maybe they're harder to sell on like, oh yeah, I can fix XYZ thing. I don't know what the state of a company's mindset would be like when working or starting to work with you, and what like you have to kind of overcome. I don't want to say objection wise, but sort of.
I think one challenge obviously is always the privacy topic, with more like increasing
in the EU,
challenge
so.
in DC, right? Yeah, more in the EU, but in general, that's a big challenge that a company have to overcome, the governance, data privacy topic. Then on the adoption side, I think that to let employees use it and make sure are delivering AI the right way so employees are actually enjoying to use it, right? If it's too complicated,
sure.
the adoption is very low. So you have to make sure you deliver it to your employees in the right way to really have an impact, right?
Do you feel like on the level that you're working at, that you are able to solve systemic problems that are, like so large that, you're able to kind of impact the trajectory of either like growth or like hiring requirements and stuff like that?
So at the end, if you look at the impact, the data, sure, then we do have impact on top line, bottom line, like new business, cost saving, which is substantial. And also that's also, again, what convinces customers if they look at our case studies and data we can share that we achieved. Usually that also is kind of a convincing factor.
No, absolutely. I'd imagine, right? Like as we, and like, where do you think this is going to continue to go, right? Because you're just at a level where, so in last couple of years, you've been doing this, right? So where do you feel like the ceiling is for what you guys are doing in regards to practically helping companies out, right? Are you going to completely remove everyone with the thought that their ideas are better, or like what do you think the ceiling is for capabilities on your product?
I think very interesting will be right now. We also launched a new product. We call it the AI Hub because like 20 years ago, the digital transformation, there were a lot of grassroots, bottom-up initiatives all across a large org. Same happens now with AI, that a lot of people are doing a lot of things decentralized, and we now bring that together to one central place so that our customers can manage the whole AI transformation in a very structured way. Again, like a portfolio, let's say you use certain models, you want to solve certain problems. Let's say you want to use AI in a call center, in a sales process. We offer our product to streamline and manage all of these POC in a very good way as a step one, but in the future, even running such workflows flows on our system, because our platform is a very flexible system. It's basically a workflow system where you put certain agents in the workflow. And I think at the end, now as the AI transformation is progressing at the large organizations, we're seeing amazing opportunities how we can support these organizations on that journey.
Yeah. And are you seeing, like, are you kind of a unique, it feels pretty unique to me because I haven't quite seen a company like this. Is there a lot of competition in this type of space right now? Or do you feel like you're kind of in a great position to offer something like very unique in comparison to the rest of the marketplace?
There are quite some platforms in the innovation idea management space who are kind of also coming from that side, but I believe we are coming very much from methodology, very very flexible architecture now, so we can really tailor now very much to the emerging needs of our clients now in AI. For example, now we have our own AI agent builder. Our customers can put the right AI in the right form to certain users. Could be like, let's say you're filling out certain parts of an innovation, then we are either enabling directly into kind of writing into fields, having chatbot interfaces, having side panels. And I think the flexibility of our platform, we actually did a complete rebuild over the last years. That played very much in our favor, looking at the market as well. So I think that's one side of competition. On the other hand, I think consulting is also going into a lot of kind of consulting side in the AI transformation, which probably also goes kind of sometimes hand in hand, sometimes very complementary, the offerings. But I think in that space, there's kind of this kind of competition.
Yeah. And, as we've kind of reached a point where every single day, I feel like there's some new improvement on the capabilities of AI from a reasoning standpoint. It kind of leads to a lot of information, right? And there's a lot of different ideas getting thrown around. So when I hear like you're having, AI ideation and on all these different, like the AI hub, all these different things I'm seeing on your website, what would you say to people about the organization aspect, right? Because I'm imagining if you're working with large companies, they're going to want this type of stuff to be integrated with their current tool set to a certain extent, because having just another thing is kind of a lot, right? Like having so many different things in a company to where, you have an ungodly amount of list of tools, right? How do you really make sure that you're integrated into a company's like current ecosystem so that it's like an easy fill in?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. I think nowadays also the trend goes more towards kind of consolidation there as well. And our platform is fully API first, so we can fully integrate to
okay, that's good.
the enterprise architecture. Sure, obviously like the Microsoft, the single sign-on, Active Directory, all that kind of stuff. But also we have different Kafka pipelines for kind of data pipes to integrate to the data environment of the clients. We can, through MCP protocols, integrate to other platforms or systems who are kind of MCP ready. So at the end, we see ourselves also as well more and more as this kind of intelligence layer that we can build these agentic workflows tapping into data, tapping into tools that are already there. And we have multiple cases of clients integrating to their safe environment, to other agile kind of organizations, to make sure it's not just one more tool, it's very a seamless experience for the employees.
Yeah, and that's got to be the biggest thing for me, right? Because if I was working at a big company and it wasn't that seamless, and it kind of takes like the technical knowledge, right, is always a hard thing. Like, is this something that's able to be used by, pretty much anybody at the company with a decent amount of technical knowledge? Because that would be like my main concern, right? Like if we don't have someone who's very technical, it's going to be a hard thing to kind of integrate into the company. Like what does that look like from that standpoint?
Well, that's a very good question. I think you have more like our direct customers, a bit more techy. Like then we have this kind of administrational environment where you're doing all the pre-prompting. We can do kind of up to 20,000 kind of sign pre-prompting. You can train your agents with certain data, with certain files. You can do certain kind of suggested prompts. That's more the techie side, which we are assisting or our clients are doing themselves. And at the end, the delivery for the employee who sometimes doesn't have lots of exposure to AI, it's just a one-click thing, a bit like the Amazon one-click purchase, if you remember in the e-commerce times.
Oh, yeah.
One-click AI delivery. Let's say you are in a certain phase in your innovation workflow and you get your AI support. It's basically one click and AI executes. But behind the scenes, it's a lot of pre-prompting and workflow stuff happening. But the employee doesn't know anything, doesn't have to know anything of that. Again, AI being a technology that should just work, shouldn't be kind of a lot of work for the employee to make it work, right? And that was always our goal, to have a very simple delivery. Because I believe only if you have the simple delivery at the right moment, the right AI, then you can actually really generate the adoption. And we recently saw this MIT study that I think it said like 95% of AI pilots fail. I really believe it's because it's just not well integrated in a workflow. If you just throw an AI tool to an employee, doesn't know how to use, or she doesn't know how to use, then it's probably a low adoption. It's wrongly used. So we really tried with our clients, crack the problems you want to solve, the way you want to integrate, so employees only have to do one click.
And how do you think these companies, just on a practical level, obviously your product seems to have it sorted out, but how on a practical level do you think companies in general can do a better job of creating quality AI adoption at their companies, right? With not only your tool, but like any tool in there.
I think you need to have a very structured approach. I think clear educational part of the employees, the structured governance, kind of really it's make sure it's a coherent way across the company how to use it. Employees need to see it as an opportunity, not as a fear. I think that's also a risk if employees perceive it as a cost-cutting initiative. It shouldn't be. It should actually be an assistant to make you more productive. I think if you communicate the right way, set up the right governance, set out the right delivery system, then I think it will be successful. And also we have to tackle kind of the right workflows. You have to analyze as an enterprise, where can we bring AI in which way, which again brings me back to the AI Hub, where we provide a tool so companies can, in a very structured way, analyze where to use AI and how can you replicate, maybe it works here, can we use the same workflow here? And I think this is very much key to success, and not just randomly everybody trying whatever and nobody has an overview of what's going on.
Do you feel like with the addition of all these different tools that have come out in the last few years, right? Obviously, first it was just ChatGPT. Do you feel like to a certain extent we've kind of not done nearly enough? I mean, that study was interesting. We've not done nearly enough to hone in as companies on the power of AI. Do you feel like a lot of companies are still like behind the eight ball, so to speak?
I think it's so fast. The development is crazy. To stay on top what is going on, and the newest model or update or tool is crazy. Also discover all the time new stuff, which impressed me a lot. Like now, like the whole vibe coding topic. Like in the past, when 10 years ago, building an MVP or a website was quite some work, and now you just use Replit, Lovable, or any of these tools. You quickly build your MVP to test with users, and I think it's just so much going on. A lot of education happens, so you need to stay really on top. You need to dedicate time, and probably our clients, the innovation teams, they are dedicating the time. It's their job, but you cannot expect that an employee who works in sales, it's not his job to be on top of AI. So it should be the dedicated AI team being on top and make sure that the employees can use the state of the art tools. And in corporates, there's always this kind of lot of rules and hurdles there, right? Because for us as private people, we can just try out the new stuff and try them out and play around. As a startup, you have a bit less hurdle too. But the bigger the company, the more governance, maybe you only are allowed to use Copilot of Microsoft, nothing else. And out of a sudden, a big part of the world is excluded. So how can you be so deep in, unless you're very interested, right? Privately, to really stay on top of it.
Yeah, and that's got to be why you've kind of put such a big emphasis on data security and stuff like that. Because I'd imagine there's a litany of companies that maybe you would have wanted, or if you didn't have that be the case, that you would have wanted to work with, that they would have just kind of brushed it off because of that very thing, right? I'm guessing they're going with Copilot or whatever it is because of the safety, as it were.
Yeah, and no chance you would get in. You have this kind of ISO certification for data and all these kind of stamps we have to be an enterprise-ready platform. Because let's say, and as an enterprise, I want to use the newest AI tool I found. Probably you do it illegally. So if we come in, we are always vested. We have our AI tools are kind of safe to use, and also we have among our customers we have banks and insurances and very kind of companies, a lot of very highly sensitive data, and I think so it's key to bring that security, so enterprises kind of start engaging with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really true. There's just, I don't think there's really any opportunity for people out there to do enterprise level deals without significant amounts of certifications. Like you said, the ISO, the SOC, what is it? SOC, what's the one? I'm forgetting, but yeah, there's a list. I'm seeing the list. Everyone that's ready has got the list, on their homepage. So that the enterprise level customers are aware. And I think it's very good that, companies are more and more kind of implementing this, because it's a hard space. And I get the data privacy thing. So it's definitely for sure something that everyone needs to worry about. And I guess some other things people are worried about, just to be honest, right? Like, this is a great product. It has a lot of really amazing capabilities. Some people have concerns, obviously, with data privacy, which is totally fair on the enterprise level, but some people also have concerns with it on a personal level, with like job growth and like what is this growth of product and tool capability mean for the job market? Where have you kind of seen how that's going from an enterprise decision-making level with the companies you're working with, and what do you have to say about kind of that aspect of things with the amount of jobs that kind of exist and will exist, so to speak, with this?
I think in general, I think entry-level jobs are at more risk. Looking at lawyers, developers,
absolutely,
consultants, I think all these analyst jobs, which are very research heavy. Look, just ChatGPT deep research. If you connect some systems to it, you get quite far. It's not there yet, obviously, but it's improving. So I think entry-level jobs are at risk, and and I think in general, I think it also depends if a company is in a growing or shrinking phase. Like, let's say if your company is under a lot of attack and you need to save money, then you are at a higher risk that AI could come for your job. If a company is growing, I just had a conversation with a colleague who's in a growing enterprise, and she told me, look, for us, it's an amazing opportunity for the employees. They love to use it. They know if they can be more productive, we can grow faster and everything. So it's not really perceived as a threat. I just asked her this very, very question, actually. Whereof in other organizations, obviously, it is at the end on a board level, on a CFO looking at the number. And if you need to shrink, if you need to be more effective, it is a risk. And then, unfortunately, it's probably affecting most entry-level positions.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. Like the nature of where we're at is a little bit, I mean, you can only really analyze it based off of, the company you're in to some extent. Like on a macro level, sure, maybe there might be and this is the hard thing, right? Like, because enterprise companies hire so many people, like maybe they lay off a bunch of people because they're trying to, do the natural big layoff. And then there's this opportunity for agentic and AI stuff in general to save them time and money. But, on a business that's just like growing, a small business, maybe they don't have to hire as quickly, but if they're a really rapidly growing company, they're still going to want people. They're still going to want people to come in and know what they do because, quite frankly, like, I just don't, I personally see it as maybe it'll get worse before it gets better, but we really don't know what the final outcome will be with all this stuff. I think entry-level jobs are definitely at risk in a lot of ways, and that's a concern for maybe a certain segment of people, right? The younger kind of people who are looking for it, but maybe this will lead to different adjustments in jobs because they're, yeah, sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I fully agree. I think at the end, it's adoption is also key for companies. For me, as a kind of at Ready, for example, I'll encourage all employees to actually tap into the potential of these AI tools out there. I think if you can make your job maybe you can get rid of some more annoying parts of the job, you can get more output. And we encourage people a lot to use AI. We just recently at our annual offsite, and we did a hackathon or a workshop in this offsite with the business challenge, like how can you use AI in your job to be more productive, to make your job more enjoyable. And then everybody spent like 2 hours of thinking around that challenge. We actually applied our own ideation methodologies, and everybody thought, how can I use AI? Which tools could I use? How could I make my job more fun? And we had 30 amazing ideas that people are testing now. And it's not about saving people or saving costs. No, it's about really leveraging what's out there and using these tools. And I think as an employee, you always should make sure you're staying on top, what's going on, trying out. And I think the people who don't touch any AI at work, they're actually more at risk, because at the end, there is more like if you have a calculator for doing math, you should use it. And if you just refuse to use it, eventually will bite back, right?
Yeah, if you're in accounting in the the 60s or 70s when, I'm sure, or 80, I'm trying to remember. I don't even know when the calculator was invented, but I'm trying to think of an example. That was my guesstimate. I don't know when it was invented, but when was the calculator? But you know what? That's crazy. But the pocket-sized devices, and it emerged in the 60s and 70s. That was a great guess. Nice. But in the 1960s to 70s, if you are in accounting and you're just like, no, I'm not going to use that. That's a ridiculous thing. Why would you not? And there's a lot of similar like parallel arguments now, right? Where people are like, well, you want to make sure that you have your, in this case, it would be math skills up to date, but maybe your rating skills up to date, all that kind of stuff. Something I like to think about with this topic is entry-level people are the most at risk, mainly because they haven't acquired the skill set to do a lot of the work. And essentially what happens is like a slightly more senior person will tell them to do sort of like grunt work level things. And those grunt work level jobs are just if-then pattern recognition with minor variations based off of, low-level decision-making. And I worded that in an unfortunately accurate and blunt way. If you look back at your first job or my first job, like it's just basic pattern recognition with like, I got some help from my boss, like true. But like, sorry, but people need to go through that to learn stuff. And what I find interesting about the AI now is that it has the ability to become agentic and learn those types of patterns and learn those types of things. So people are more and more open to the idea of these agents taking over these roles, especially as things expand. Like what I found so interesting about what you said with Ready AI is you're API first, right? We're truly, I don't actually know if we're limited by compute or reasoning at this point. I think we're limited to the connections, whether it be via API or whether it be the click on screen capabilities of a tool,
True. And I think if you crack these two things, having make sure people know where to click, and if it's just one click and not writing a massive prompt, and getting access to the right data, which at the end has to be structured the right way. If the data is not structured, AI is struggling, as we know. If you crack these two things, I think that will be a game changer. And also we're betting on that, right? With this API first platform, we're betting on these enterprise platforms opening it up. Beginning of the year, we put it as a hypothesis in our website. By now, I think most of these platforms did open up. And we also see a lot of kind of this problem mining, opportunity mining in big companies where the organizations try to tap into that data, make sense of data. And there, I think, as these two hypotheses kind of manifest more and more, I think we have really the right to play as this intelligence layer to really create, kind of make innovation a profit center, not a cost center, as we say.
Yeah, and you were talking earlier about MCPs a little bit and the opportunities there. Could you speak to a little bit of how you guys are trying to slot into that opportunity, and kind of maybe just give a brief explanation of what it means in general to those who might be a little bit less knowledgeable on MCPs?
It's more like that kind of the two AIs can talk together. So basically, let's say you have an innovation project and you want to find relevant trends, then you can basically, our AI can talk to a trends database with MCP, and then the two agents talk together, and they make sure they get the right trends for a certain innovation out of the system and pull them into our system. Let's say you want to scout startups, very similar, like CB Insights, a big startup database is MCP ready, and it's much more powerful than the API because it really can more in an agentic way find the right content and pull them out of the system.
Yeah, I mean, it is such an interesting opportunity because I see all of these tools going on this protocol. Yeah, I think it started, 4 or 5 months ago? Like, I don't feel like it hasn't been that long, right?
The opening it up was quite recent, especially, I think.
Yeah, Jira, and Claude, was Claude kind of the catalyst for this?
Yeah, I think there was remember when we looked into it, it just started a closed beta, I think, if I remember right. Yeah. And now with adoption is going up, I think. So I think it's a great opportunity there. Also, the MCP on platform as well, that we can even run this protocol on our platform to, for example, compare all ideas against each other, to kind of also analyze more the similarity or opportunities based on all the data set we have on our platform. So we have kind of MCP within platform, MCP towards external platforms. I think that's a nice opportunity, also emerging more and more, obviously, right?
And just to tap in a little bit more to explain it at as basic of a level as you can to the layperson. When you say they're able to communicate with each other, right, on an easier basis, because I understand, with APIs and stuff, that's kind of what they're doing as well with specific endpoints. But how does it communicate to each other in a different way than how you can make call requests or put requests and get requests, etc., through APIs? Like, what's the kind of difference there, I guess, for someone to understand?
I think the API have to map certain fields. I think like title, description, like certain elements.
Yes, yeah. There's always fields. There's an endpoint. There's fields.
So okay, this endpoint, the description of the Jira ticket, the title should relate to the title of the ready platform.
Yeah.
And this is more like a protocol where you basically the data exchange between two kind of platforms with AI. Basically, you really have these language models that you basically then ask, can you find certain tickets in Jira with certain characteristics, and then it will actually talk to the MCP of Jira, and then kind of using the Jira AI in a way to find the right content and pull it over, not this very kind of one
structured,
much more simple one with APIs, right? You have much more opportunities with the MCP to make sense of these massive data pools, data lakes in different systems.
Yeah, like for example, I'm pretty sure Claude itself in the last few months implemented a Gmail integration, like a Google Calendar integration, etc. And you can ask, and maybe this kind of in the same category of what it's doing. You can ask questions to Claude now about your inbox and about your calendar and stuff like that, and it's able to get the mass amount of data that just exists within Gmail or Google Calendar, and it's able to give you natural responses of that data and what's in there. Is that fair enough? Right.
Or Notion, if you know Notion, this kind of note-taking tool, it's not fully integrated.
Absolutely, I love it. Yep.
GPT is an easy example. You can now connect with your Gmail, with OneDrive, with whatever tool you need, and then you just do a research and say, find me blah, blah, blah. And it goes through your emails, goes through your Drive, goes through your calendar, all the channels that you can connect to, which is increasingly, Notion does the same, and all these platforms are interconnecting. And the question would be, who's the master platform? Will it be OpenAI integrating to everything? Notion launched their own AI, Notion AI, for example, but now you can access all the Notion data on ChatGPT. So do you still need the Notion AI? Like, that's this question which I'm curious to see if OpenAI will become this big monolith. Now we have this kind of glorious seven tech companies, and I feel OpenAI is going for all of them, trying to attack Google on the search, Apple on the product with Jonathan Ive. It attacks Microsoft and enterprise. And let's see, maybe in 5 years from now, we have one massive player integrating to everything else. And let's see how this develops. It's very exciting.
It's going to get even more interesting when... Are you familiar with the theory that... No, not theory. There was reporting on it that seemed pretty substantial. Like, Perplexity wants to buy Chrome. I don't know if you heard. Have you heard about like how companies want to buy Google Chrome because there's questions as to whether they have like a monopoly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but so, I tried to Comet. I think the browser of Perplexity, where it's kind of a Agentic browser.
Correct. Yeah.
It makes sense. Kind of really attacking Google, the big kind of since many years being that tech company, the internet basically now being attacked from all sides, from OpenAI, from Perplexity. It's interesting how fast it can go.
Yeah, I mean,
because 3 years ago, nobody would have said Google is so easily attackable, I guess, right?
Yeah, but the concern basically is coming from the fact that, Google has they have the search platform, they have the browser, they have the cookie still, they have the ad platform that I worked in Google Ads for a long time.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, last couple of years before I got out of that industry, they are price gouging people on that stuff. It's like the cost per clicks are just like going through the roof, and I don't think there's necessarily a correlative value like maintenance there. So it's very interesting where that's going to go. And, just to speak on the MCP thing for a moment one more time, like, yeah, I know that OpenAI's got the capabilities, but what was really interesting, like, this is just a use case I saw the other day. Like, I'm trying to make sure that I'm trying to get people on more podcasts. Like, we have this podcast. I'm trying to like help founders get on more podcasts. And just as like a practical question that I could have given to somebody, this is an example of where I think it's going to impact the workplace and on the margins, and then lead to maybe less hiring because you don't need as much hiring. I was like, hey, we get a lot of guests on the podcast. I know we're doing our own outreach. I know there's some PR agencies that keep just giving us more guests, right? Can you, to my assistant, I was like, hey, could you just go through the email and find all the PR agencies that have like been in the inbox? And he's like, okay, I'll do that. It'll probably take a little bit of time. Because it would, if you go through a Gmail with a bunch of emails, right, about a bunch of different topics. And then I went, and I opened up Claude, connected to Gmail, and asked, find me the list of the PR agencies, people, their emails, etc., and all the info and guests that you had us booked on, please. 5 minutes later, it pops up. And I know that sounds like, well, it's kind of took a lot of time. Like, well, it just searched through my entire inbox that gets like hundreds of emails a week, because it's like my inbox for the company, and everything kind of like goes through. It's like my hello email address, right? So it really gets a lot of stuff. And I was like, this is incredible. And if we start getting that kind of data cohesion with this MCP protocol, I think people like are blissfully unaware of the capabilities that'll come out of it in the next few years,
I agree. It's crazy. I think it's very impressive. It's just the beginning. It's not perfect, but I think it's already impressive what you can achieve in a very short period of time.
Yeah, and it's not full. We're not at full adoption yet from the companies that are able to implement the protocol, let alone people, right? So once there's mass company adoption and mass people adoption, it's just going to get better and better and better. So that was a big eye-opening moment for me, because I'm a big automation person. I'm like a very N8N, make.com. Call me an expert. It's one of the few things I'll be like, I know what I'm doing there. Like we have I literally have like 300 automations running at the company right now. So it's like, okay, wow. I do a lot of that. I'm like, so I know how to do this. Like, what's the point of an MCP though? I get that like it's supposed to be more free flowing with the data. And then I just typed that in and I went, okay. I was like, now I get it. Like that's going to be a big deal when even at an automated platform, you start having MCP endpoints, so to speak, inside of an automation platform. And then that was like the big aha for me. I'm like, oh, could you imagine if there was recurring instances of that thing? Because everything starts with manual and then can go to the automatic and the recurring capabilities. So it's like we got a future in store for us. But yeah, man, I guess just last thing I'd have to ask is like, what has got you most excited about your company in the next couple of years before we kind of close this out? What are you really looking to tell people about that you guys are working on?
I think it's super exciting where this agentic future goes. Now in the enterprise area where we are focusing on, I think things are moving at very fast speed. And I see crazy results that some companies are already adopting agentic workflows in their companies, kind of managing the AI transformation. And I believe that's a very exciting field to be in. I think the way we are developing there together with our clients, it's kind of also new. The kind of development is so fast for us, for clients. And I think jointly this develop there and they conquer this new world is super exciting. I think it's a great time to live, I think.
Heck yeah, I agree. So for everyone who is, looking for what Ready has to offer, make sure to go to ready.ai. That's spelled ready with 2 R's, Eddie.ai. And yeah, we really appreciate having you on the show, man. It's been a pleasure, Dave.
Thanks, Dimitri. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Bye. Thank you for this episode. Please make sure to leave a like, comment, follow, leave a review, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.